Chosen one. There is a pattern that runs through every sacred tradition without exception. The call does not come only once. There is a young man in the ancient text, Samuel, who heard God call his name in the night. The first time, he didn't recognize the voice. He ran to his teacher and said, "Did you call me?" His teacher said, "I did not. Go back to sleep." The second time, the same. The third time, the same. But on the fourth call, the teacher understood what was happening. He said, "The next time you hear it, do not come to me. Answer it. Say, 'Speak, I am listening.'" And on the fourth night, when that voice came again, Samuel answered, 4 words. And in those 4 words, a life was redirected. A calling was received. A young man who had spent years in preparation, in waiting, in serving without understanding why, finally understood why. Chosen one, I believe you are in your 4th call. Not the 4th time you have heard spiritual content. The 4th time a specific, targeted, deeply personal message about who you are and what you carry has been arranged to find you. In different forms, at different moments, always saying the same essential thing underneath. The first time, you were still being formed. The message arrived, you felt something, and life moved on. The second time, fear spoke louder than the knowing inside you, and you closed the door before it could open fully. The third time, life was simply too loud, too demanding. Too many things pulling you in too many directions. The message arrived, and you had no room to hold it. And now God, who does not waste words and does not abandon his chosen, has sent it one more time, with more clarity, with more weight. Because what this message says about you is too important to leave unreceived. I don't know what the last few years have cost you, but I believe you are ready. And I believe this is the moment the door finally stays open. Before we go any further, I want to tell you what is waiting for you if you stay until the end of what I have prepared today. I am going to name what God has actually been trying to tell you, not in general terms, but specifically. I am going to explain why receiving it has been harder than your faith alone can account for, and there is a reason for that which most people never discover. And I am going to show you, clearly, the identity you carry, the specific description of who you are that, once it settles in you, changes how you walk through everything that comes next. Stay with me. The most important part of this message is not where we begin, it is where we end up together. Now, I want you to understand something about the way God operates with the people he has chosen for significant things. He repeats himself, not because he is frustrated, not because the message failed the first time. He repeats because the vessel, the person being called, needs time to become strong enough to carry the full weight of what is being sent. What looks like a delayed message is actually a prepared person. What feels like God being slow is actually God being precise. In the story of Samuel, the call came 4 times, not because God was uncertain about what he wanted. God was completely certain. He was waiting for Samuel to arrive at a moment of stillness, deep enough to receive it. And on the 4th night, something in Samuel was finally ready. I want to ask you something, and I want you to sit with it honestly. How many times has this specific message found you? Think back. There was a moment, maybe late at night, when the house was quiet, and everything around you had finally gone still, where something pressed forward inside you. Not anxiety. Something quieter than that and older than that. A knowing, a pull towards something you were supposed to be doing but weren't doing yet, or becoming but hadn't yet become. You felt it clearly. And then the morning came, the day started, and you went back to your life. You told yourself, I will think about that when things slow down. That was not your imagination. There was a conversation after that one that felt arranged somehow, too precise to be coincidence. Someone said exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, and something in your chest recognized it before your mind could explain it. You noticed it. You thought, this feels significant. And then the rational part of your mind stepped in and explained it away. Too much of a coincidence to really mean anything. Probably nothing. That was not nothing. And then there was the ache, that quiet, persistent weight of something unlived. You have felt it most in moments of stillness, in the space between tasks, in the early morning before the day starts, in the moments when you are surrounded by people but suddenly aware of a gap that other people's company doesn't fill. That ache doesn't have an official name. It is not quite grief. It is not quite longing. It is the specific feeling of someone who knows they are supposed to be carrying something they haven't yet picked up. A calling sitting in the corner of your life, patient, waiting. None of these moments were failures. I want to say that clearly. None of them were you missing what God was doing. The first time, you were still being formed. The message arrived before the vessel was strong enough to hold it, and that is not failure, that is mercy. The second time, the doubt that came in was not weakness. It was the very human response of a person who has been disappointed enough times to protect themselves from hoping too hard. The third time, life was genuinely demanding, and the noise was genuinely real. These were not moral failures. They were stages in a formation process that has been happening in you, quietly, for longer than you've been aware of it. Joseph understood something of this. The first time his calling came, it came in a dream, vivid, unmistakable, specific. He was 17 years old, full of what he didn't yet have the character to carry. And the people closest to him, the very people who should have seen him, threw him in a pit. Then a foreign house. Then a prison. Every time the calling was almost within reach, something pushed it further away. It looked, from the outside, like failure, like abandonment. But every stage of what Joseph walked through was not God forgetting the promise. It was God building the person who would one day be capable of holding it without it breaking him. Chosen one, the pattern across your life is not evidence that God has forgotten you. It is evidence that what He is building in you is significant enough to take time. And here is what I want you to hold before we go deeper. The people who fully receive the message on the fourth attempt are not the ones who finally become worthy of it. They are the ones who finally become willing to stop arguing with it. You have been arguing with it. I understand why. I am not here to rush you past that, but I want you to know the argument is almost over. Something in you has already started to settle. And what I am about to show you next is not only the message you have been receiving, it is the reason receiving it has been harder than it should have been, and it has less to do with your faith than you might think. I want to speak about something that most people in spiritual spaces do not discuss, because it sits at the intersection of science and faith, and not everyone is comfortable standing in that space. But I believe you can hold both. And what I'm about to tell you changes everything about why you have struggled to fully hear and fully receive what God has been sending. You were not born struggling to access divine clarity. Think about a child, a young child, before the world starts shaping them into something smaller. They pick things up instantly. They create without being asked. They follow an inner knowing that most adults have forgotten how to access. They dream vividly. They make connections that adults have been trained to dismiss as unrealistic. They operate naturally and without effort at a frequency that most adults have to work very hard to reach. And then something happens. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually, between the ages of about 7 and 15, in almost every person alive. Neuroscientists who have studied this in research out of MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, call it the decline effect. The God-given brainwave pattern that children operate in naturally, the frequency associated with intuition, with creative breakthrough, with the kind of deep knowing that doesn't need an explanation, begins to dim. Not because it was taken away, because the systems we live inside suppress it. The structure of modern education, the pace of modern life, the constant noise pulling at attention from every direction. The world, it turns out, functions more smoothly when the people in it cannot access their own clearest frequency. So, systematically, over time, without anyone making a single conscious decision, the receiver gets quieter. And what this means for you specifically is this: the capacity to hear clearly, to receive spiritual instruction without the fog of doubt immediately rising, the kind of deep knowing that makes you feel, just for a moment, completely certain about something you cannot fully explain. That capacity is biologically real. It is woven into the design of your brain, and it has been operating below its designed level for most of your adult life. This is not a spiritual failure. It is not a character deficiency. It is not evidence that God is withholding. It is a God-given ability that has been suppressed by circumstances outside your control, and it can be restored. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake has spent 34 years studying exactly this. What he developed is a 7-minute audio track that uses a precise technology called brain entrainment to reactivate the specific brainwave pattern your brain was designed to operate at before the decline effect took hold. Not through years of meditation, not through expensive biofeedback equipment that costs thousands of dollars. 7 minutes, headphones, eyes closed. I want to be honest with you about what this is and what it is not. It is a tool, a restoration tool for the physical instrument, the brain you were given, so that it can return closer to the frequency it was created to operate at. The spiritual receiver that God built into you, functioning more clearly because what has been suppressing it is reduced. It is not a substitute for faith. It is not a guarantee of outcomes. It is a support for the process that is already happening in you. The investment for what Dr. Lake created is normally $49, but through the link I've placed in the description and the pinned comment below, it is available for $39, a price that exists nowhere else. With it come 4 additional resources at no extra cost. A track designed to support children's focus and clarity. A foundational book about prosperity that the film The Secret drew from. A guided visualization across the 4 central areas of your life, and a printable guide to the 5 most important habits for building the future you carry inside you. If nothing shifts, every dollar returns. No questions, no conditions. I've put the link in the description and in the pinned comment. For those who feel called to explore it, it is there. One important note: there are imitation products using this name that do not carry the actual technology embedded inside them, just ordinary audio with no effect. The only verified source, with the full technology, all 4 bonuses, and the complete money-back protection, is the link I have placed specifically for you below. Now, whether or not you use that tool, what I want to say next is the most important thing in everything I have shared with you today. Because now that you understand the pattern of the 4th call, and now that you understand what has been operating below its capacity in you, there is one question remaining, the one this entire message has been building toward from the beginning. Why you? Why this many times? Why now? The answer to that changes everything, and it is waiting for you in what comes next. Chosen one, welcome back. If you are still here, something in you has already decided that this message is worth receiving fully. I want to honor that, because what I am about to share with you is the deepest layer of everything we have been building toward from the beginning. In the first part of what we walked through together, we established 2 things. The first, that God has a pattern of repeating his messages to the people he has chosen, and that each repetition is not a failure of delivery, it is a stage of formation. The second, that the clarity you have been searching for has been partly obscured by something biological, a God-given capacity that has been operating below its designed level for most of your adult life. But neither of those explanations fully answers the central question. Because there are many people who have felt the stirring, many people who have received signs and experienced the quiet weight of something unlived. Most of them are not receiving the same message 4 times. Most of them are not being pursued with this specific kind of persistence, which means there is something particular about you. And I want to name it carefully, not to inflate you, not to build you up with words that feel good, but dissolve by the end of the day, because what I am about to say is true in the most grounded, practical, and honest sense I know how to offer it. The reason God keeps sending this message is not because you keep missing it. It is because of what you carry. There is a pattern I have seen in people who receive divine messages with this kind of persistence. It is not that they are more educated, or more visible, or more obviously gifted. It is that they are carrying a specific combination, perception, and endurance, and a kind of deep seeing that most people either cannot do or will not do for long. And that combination is rare. It is not common, and the calling attached to it is not small. You have spent your life feeling things that others did not seem to feel, noticing patterns that others walked right past, holding weight in conversations and in rooms and in relationships that was never officially assigned to you, but somehow always ended up with you anyway. You were the one who stayed when others left, the one who saw what was underneath the surface, the one who, when things fell apart around them, held something together simply by the quality of their presence. You did not choose this about yourself. You were built this way. And here is what that means. The message that keeps returning to you is not a general message addressed to the broad category of spiritual people. It is a specific message addressed to a specific person about a specific assignment, your assignment, the shape of contribution, that only your exact combination of history and pain and perception and endurance makes possible. But there is a belief underneath all of this that has been the actual obstacle, not your circumstances, not your timing, not the noise of life. A belief so quiet you may have never said it out loud, but that has been running underneath every moment. You came close to receiving this message fully and then pulled back. The belief sounds something like this: I cannot quite believe that something this significant is actually meant for me. Not someone more prepared, not someone whose faith is more consistent, whose story is less complicated, whose life looks more together from the outside. Me specifically, with everything I know about myself. Chosen one, I need you to hear what I am about to say with the full weight it deserves. That belief did not come from nowhere. It came from seasons where you showed up with everything you had, and it was not received the way it deserved to be received. It came from moments of hope that were followed by disappointment, until, somewhere along the way, disappointment started to feel more reliable than hope. It came from the accumulation of enough evidence that staying small was safer, that wanting small things meant you couldn't be let down by small outcomes. That belief was a form of protection, and it served you when you needed protection, but it is not serving you anymore. And the fourth message is arriving now, specifically because you are standing at the edge of a season where that belief, if you carry it even one step further, will cost you something real. Joseph was 30 years old when his calling was finally fully received. 17, at the pit, through Potiphar's house, through prison. 13 years of formation that looked from the outside like failure and abandonment. But every single stage was building something in him that the palace would require. A depth of wisdom that cannot be manufactured. A compassion for human suffering that was only possible because of what he himself had suffered. A character that could hold the weight of what was coming without being destroyed by it. The pain in your story is not a disqualification, it is the qualification. And what you are about to step into requires someone who has been through exactly what you have been through. Chosen one, I want you to stop for a moment. Everything I have told you until now, the pattern of the fourth call, the suppression of your God-given receiver, the specific identity you carry underneath the doubt, all of it has been leading to this, the deepest truth in the message. Because you may be wondering, is the fourth message urgency? Is it a warning? Is God finally running out of patience, telling me that if I don't act now, something closes permanently? No, that is not what the fourth message is. The fourth message is completion. Think about a birth, a child being carried for months invisible, in the dark, in a process that is uncomfortable and disorienting for the one holding it. The formation happens entirely out of sight. No one applauds the waiting. The person carrying it simply continues, day after day, holding something that the world cannot yet see, but that is growing more fully formed with every passing week. And then the fourth contraction arrives. Not the first, not the second or the third, the fourth. And what is different about the fourth is not that it is harder. What is different is that the fourth is the one that delivers. The previous three were not wasted. They were not punishment. They were the necessary preparation for this moment, the moment that brings forward what was being formed. Chosen one, that is your fourth message. Everything you have been carrying, the weight of the waiting, the years of quiet preparation that happened while no one was watching, the formation built in seasons that cost you more than they should have, the strength forged in moments of endurance that no one saw, that was not pointless suffering. That was the development of something that is now, today, fully formed and ready to come into the open. You are not being called to start something new. You are being returned to something original, to the version of yourself that existed before the world taught you to be smaller, before the noise dimmed the frequency you were born operating at, before the disappointments made staying protected feel smarter than stepping forward. The fourth message is not, try harder. The fourth message is, come home. And here is what home looks like in the season immediately ahead of you. In your relationships, the people who cannot receive who you are becoming will begin to drift, not dramatically, not with conflict, but gently, the way one season transitions into another. And the people who are aligned with who you are actually becoming will grow more visible, more accessible, more present. This will not feel like loss. It will feel like clarity arriving where confusion used to live. In your purpose, the specific calling you have been circling, the thing you have approached and stepped back from, the assignment that keeps reappearing in different forms, it will begin to present itself not as a grand, impossible leap, but as an obvious next step that has been in front of you all along, less like a cliff, more like a door that was always open, and you are finally ready to walk through it without looking back. In your provision, what you need in order to do what you are called to do will not arrive all at once. I want to be honest about that. But it will arrive proportionally, step by step, in direct response to your willingness to move. The resources follow the movement. They always have, they always will. I cannot tell you the exact timeline. I will not do that. What I can tell you is the pattern. And the pattern across every life that has walked the road you are on is the same. What has been held is ready to be released. What was formed in the dark is ready to come into the light. And the only remaining question is not whether this is true. You already know it is true. The only question is whether today is the day you stop managing it from a safe distance and start walking toward it from the center. You are the voice. The one who speaks what others feel but cannot find words for, whose words, when they finally come, land in people like something they have been waiting to hear their whole lives without knowing they were waiting. You are the seer, the one who perceives the pattern underneath the surface, who has always felt the undercurrent of things before others became aware of it. What you have been calling overthinking, that is not overthinking. That is your assignment, operating exactly as it was designed. You are the spiritual warrior, the one who has been in battles that were never only about you, who has held ground in seasons that would have broken someone less formed, who has built inside themselves through endurance, through showing up when showing up costs something, a kind of strength that cannot be manufactured. You are the pioneer. The reason no one around you is walking this particular path is not that the path is wrong. It is that someone has to go first so that others can follow. That is not a burden. That is the design. And you were built for it. These are not words to make you feel better for an hour. They are a description of a structural reality about who you are that has been true for longer than you have been aware of it. And now, before we close, there is one last thing to set down. The version of you that needed to be small in order to feel safe. The story that kept saying, "Not yet, not me, not this." That story protected you when protection was what you needed. It has served a real purpose. But you have been strong enough for longer than you realize to not need that protection anymore. Set it down now, not with drama, not with ceremony. The way you set something heavy down at the end of a very long day, gently, with relief, because your hands are finally ready to be open. And now, before I release you into the rest of this day, there is one last thing I want to do with you. If you are in a safe place to close your eyes, do that. If you are driving or need to stay present, simply let everything else get quiet for a moment and receive what I'm about to say with your full attention. God, we come to you first with gratitude. We thank you for a patience that outlasts our delays, for a love that sends the same message, not out of frustration, but out of precision, because you know exactly what this person is carrying, and you know what it will mean for their life and for the lives they will touch when they finally carry it fully. We thank you for the seasons that were hard, for the formation that happened in the dark, for every moment of endurance that became a kind of strength that could not have been built any other way. We acknowledge today that you see everything that has not been seen by anyone else. You see the private years of trying, of showing up, of building without recognition. You see the faithfulness in small moments when the large moments felt impossibly far away. You see the doubt that was not rebellion, it was self-protection from a heart that had been hurt enough to be careful. And you see the readiness that is here now, even if the one standing at this threshold cannot fully see it themselves. And now, we release. We release the story that the calling was meant for someone more equipped. We release the belief that the delay was a disqualification. We release the comparison to others whose timelines look faster and whose paths look easier. We release the version of ourselves that had to stay small to feel safe. We release the fear that receiving this fully means losing something we cannot afford to lose. We release the ceiling built from other people's perception of what we could become. And we release the waiting because the waiting is over. Now we activate. We activate the voice fully, without apology, into the spaces and the people that have been waiting for what only this person can say. We activate the seer, the perception, the discernment, the deep knowing. Let it operate now, without the interference of self-doubt. We activate the warrior, the ground holding, the endurance, the strength that was built in the hard seasons. Let it be fully available for what comes next. We activate the right relationships, the aligned connections, the people and doors and opportunities that have been held in position. Let them become visible and accessible in this season. We activate provision, what is needed to do what this person is called to do. Let it move, step by step, in direct response to their movement. And we declare protection over the identity being received today. Guard it from the old doubt returning in the night. Over what is being built, protect it from premature exposure, from voices that cannot yet see what is under construction. What has been lifted in this moment, let nothing pull it back down. Chosen one, you are the voice, you are the seer, you are the warrior, you are the pioneer. This message has been received today, fully. You do not apologize for the calling. You do not manage it from a distance. You carry it. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. In Jesus' name, Amen. Take a breath. If something in you shifted during what we just walked through together, if you recognize something true about yourself that you had not quite let yourself fully receive before, I want you to do one thing right now. Type the word "fourth" in the comments, not for me, as a declaration for yourself, a record in this moment that the fourth message was received, that you said yes. For those who feel called to explore the 7-minute restoration tool I mentioned, the link is in the description and in the pinned comment below. Use that specific link because there are imitations with the same name that do not carry the actual technology inside them. The only source with the full entrainment, the 4 bonus resources, and the complete money-back protection is through the link I placed there for you. And one last thing, if you know someone who is in their 3rd time, who has been circling something for a while, who has felt the pull without yet finding the clarity to answer it, share this with them today. You may be the reason their 4th time arrives. I don't know everything that is ahead for you, but I believe, in the most honest and grounded sense of that word, that the person finishing this is not the same person who started it. Something has settled. Something has been received. You are not alone. You were never alone. And the one who called you is not finished with you. Go now and receive it fully.